Hey guys, welcome back to the Wild Wrestling Channel. I am your host, Seth. Today, we're going to look at what happened to WWE's Cruiserweight division and the show 205 Live. Play the intro. So if we go back a little bit, the WWE Cruiserweight division hadn't really been around in over 10 years, ever since the title kind of lost its touch in the early 2000s. But then WWE brought it back in 2016 with the Cruiserweight Classic. From cruiserweights all around the world, some signed to WWE, some not, all over the world competing to become the newly crowned WWE Cruiserweight Champion in a 32-person tournament, which started in 2016 and had TJP become the first champion in the WWE Cruiserweight division to get this division hot and off start with a good way with his victory over Grand Metalik. And then from there, it started off as they became the Raw Cruiserweights, as with the brand split just happening, the Monday Night Raw with their exclusive pay-per-views would hold the Cruiserweight title. And it would be like that for a while until in late November, the creation of 205 Live. Now, the Cruiserweights still were on Raw every once in a while and still defended the title on the Raw pay-per-views, but 205 Live was created as the Cruiserweights show that was usually taped after SmackDown, or I'm pretty sure it was actually just played after SmackDown, and it became the show for the Cruiserweights. As earlier in the year, we had seen Brian Kendrick get the Cruiserweight title, and on the first episode, Rich Swann beat him for it. And this show became kind of the Cruiserweights' way of showcasing themselves, as all of them getting a chance on the cards. And it was just like I said, it was kind of their show. They got to do what they wanted. It was kind of, they not really do what they wanted, but they got to kind of showcase themselves. It was all Cruiserweights, all vying for the Cruiserweight title. If you were under the 205-pound weight limit, you were allowed to compete on the show, which we saw some crazy matches, as we saw many people get signed to the company under the Cruiserweight banner, and 205 Live was off to a hot start. Throughout the next couple of years, 205 Live continued to have their titles being showcased on kickoff shows and actual pay-per-views as they got to defend the title, and we saw many champions like Neville, Cedric Alexander, Buddy Murphy, and many other great champions compete on all the shows, as they would continue to have they would continue on 205 Live, but also getting to showcase themselves on the big stages as well, which was great to see for the Cruiserweights, as it was still one of the favorites, as they always delivered that high-flying action that we all loved, and it was a great kind of escape for some people who love the high-flying action. They always had that kind of match on the show or on the kickoff to watch, and 205 Live was watching there, and they got to showcase themselves well on shows like WrestleMania, on SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble. They were getting everywhere, and in 2017 and 2018, it still was delivering in every sense you could, but in my opinion, it all changed a little bit once we got to 2019. Now, in 2019, at that point, 2017 and 2018 were going really well for the Cruiserweights. And once we got to 2019, the show didn't change or anything, but a lot of the Cruiserweights did seem to start to leave the brand, as some top guys like Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander moved up to Raw or SmackDown, and a lot of the Cruiserweights did. They were either moving up to main roster shows, or a lot of them were just getting released. And it showed on 205 Live as they were bringing in this new group of Cruiserweights, which, don't get me wrong, were still very talented, very great performers, and very good in the Cruiserweight division, but they weren't that core group of Cruiserweights that we all know and loved. Something just felt a little off about the Cruiserweight division, as we just couldn't really get quite this new group to kind of stick in our heads. We were kind of so used to the old group that it was hard to kind of tap into this new group. But over time, they kept trying to prove themselves in 2019, as it was kind of a mixture of the new group of talented guys with kind of bits of the old group as well, as they all kind of wrestled together, and it made the show a little for a while, as like I said, just sometimes the new Cruiserweights weren't really sticking like the old Cruiserweights were, and the old cruiserweights were still there, but sometimes I think they were kind of getting lost in the shuffle a little bit. So some controversy spiraled in 2019. Now we start to get into 2020. And in 2020, we started to kind of see, in my opinion, a little bit of the downfall of it as we started to kind of see a couple new guys, but this is when the real big group of new guys kind of came in. And early in 2020, they changed the WWE Cruiserweight title to the NXT Cruiserweight title, as 205 Live was still a thing, but it now became, the Cruiserweight division now transferred more to NXT instead of WWE main roster. So now they were defending the title more on NXT shows and appearing more on NXT than Raw and SmackDown. And it didn't really mess it up too much. They were still kind of the Cruiserweight division that was still good. But it did. Some people might have felt a little controversial about it. I personally didn't really mind it because, like I said, it kind of still kept the old Cruiserweight flair in it. It was just now it was more on NXT, and it kind of, in my opinion, it started from there, kind of turning. Once it kind of turned to the NXT Cruiserweight division, it kind of became a little more like developmental talent instead of that cool Cruiserweight talent from all across like the world. It's kind of more that developmental talent that they have that was under the 205-pound weight limit. It's what it kind of turned into, in my opinion. Now, as we get deeper in 2020, we started to see a lot of the old faces leaving, getting released, or just being on different shows now, as now only a couple of the original pack was still there, like Tony Nese and Arya Daivari, and like the Bollywood boys and stuff like that. But now the new guys kind of completely took it over, and even more new guys were coming in. And in my opinion, somewhat like what on the main roster would be jobbers and new developmental talent have kind of taken over, in my opinion. And 205 Live really lost that touch, in my opinion. They just didn't have that core group of guys that was really that awesome cruiserweight talent that we had. Like I said earlier, these guys were still really good in the ring and put on great matches, but they just weren't that core group of guys. They felt more like new developmental talent and like jobbers kind of than actual like proper talent. So from here, the 205 Live division kind of started to fall off. As in 2021, it kept trying to grow, but it still wasn't really reaching those new heights. It did have some high points, like the feud between Santos Escobar and Isaiah Swerve Scott, and then the ladder match, Takeover Stand and Deliver, between Jordan Devlin and Santos Escobar. But after that, it really started to spiral down and really never picked it up from there as we kind of get into the final stages of 205 Live. And by final stages, I mean as we get kind of to the NXT 2.0 part at the end of 2021, 205 Live followed them as Roderick Strong became the champ. But 205 Live wasn't even what it was. It wasn't even a cruiserweight division. People on 205 Live who were over the 205-pound limit, like Odyssey Jones and guys like that, were all competing on it. It completely lost the touch that was cruiserweight division, 205 pounds or less. It wasn't like that anymore. Sure, the title still was under that, but by New Year's Evil 2022, Carmelo Hayes unified the title with the North American Championship, and they still kept doing it without a title. And at that point, everything had fallen off, as there was no cruiserweight title, there was no weight limit at that point, as people over the 205-pound limit were competing, and women were competing on the show. And not to flame the women, but women were never really supposed to compete on the show, because as many people know, as in a rule in society, it's pretty rude to talk about a woman's weight. So they never like to, when they announced women in WWE, they never announced their weight. So they didn't want to stereotype. And plus, most women are under the 205 pounds, so it just wouldn't really work. And women, people over the 205 pounds, and there was no cruiserweight title. And by February 2022, the show was cut and ended, and just everything had fallen apart, and the cruiserweight division was no more. So that is what technically happened to 205 Live. I'm a guy who always, not even if they don't revive 205 Live, but if they just brought back the cruiserweight title, I think there's another new group of guys. And even though I always talk about how the new group of guys, it's not that core group, if we make a brand new title and have a new first core group of guys that could stick, and as we slowly bring in new guys every once in a while, I think it could be a good title, especially under the Triple H regime. But that's, in my opinion, what happened to 205 Live. It's kind of some mixed opinions on it, kind of controversial, but I personally still would love the Cruiserweight division to come back. But that's where 205 Live went and the history of it, basically. you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below if you enjoyed this video. And turn on that bell so you get notified whenever I upload a brand new video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.